Welcome everyone to the Blues Holiday Spectacular. I'm sure it's going to live up to its name. Now, today we're going to look back at 2024, both in terms of product releases and feature updates, of course. We're also going to spend a little time looking ahead at 2025 with literally a product release happening today. And today, our special guests, they include who else but the Blues Developer Relations team. So I'm sure there's going to be some musical numbers or something like that. You never know what you're going to get today. Now, if you're anything like me, it's kind of that time of year you look back, hopefully with some sense of pride, but certainly some sense of exhaustion at this point. And today, my goal is for us to come together. We're going to embrace what we've done, and yes, we're also going to work to recoup our strength and start to relax, or at least look forward to 2025. And how we get there today, that's going to be in three easy steps. So I'm going to kick things off with a look back at our product releases in 2024, specifically on the hardware side. TJ is going to be next up, and he's going to go over all the improvements in our cloud service Notehub. And last but not least, Alex is going to talk about a product we're releasing today and give a sneak peek at just some of what you can expect from Blues in 2025, at least what we can talk about, right? Now, before we get started, if you have any questions during the presentation today, of course, please ask those in the Q&A panel. Chat is okay to use. I encourage you to use that, but we're finding it easier over time to not lose track of questions in the Q&A. And also, if we have time at the end, we'll do more of a public Q&A session with some of the best questions you ask. Now, a question we always get, and I always like to head this off, is this being recorded? The answer is always yes. It is being recorded. It'll be available on the Blues YouTube channel at this URL. Also, you can subscribe and you'll get that notification as soon as the video shows up. Now, I already gave away our speakers today, but let me do some more official introductions in order of appearance. Starting with myself, my name is Rob Lauer, and I'm Senior Director of Developer Relations here at Blues. TJ Van Tol will be next. He's our Principal Developer Advocate. And the aforementioned Alex Bucknall, who's our Staff DevX Engineer, is going to bring it all home. And now I promised a Blues Holiday Spectacular, and that's exactly how we're going to start. So give me one moment to share a little video that I put together. And just be one moment. Just got to find the video. All right, get ready for this.
Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's bringing lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly.
All right, that's all you get. That's had to be a musical number, right?
Oh, that's great.
It's the beauty and horror of AI, right? So let me get back here. Oops, wrong slide. All right, let's kick off the 2024 hardware recap. And in no particular order, I'm going to start with StarNote for Skylo. Now, this is our first, but definitely not our last product focus on satellite connectivity. And I want to talk about StarNote a bit because it's really been a very popular product for us this year. First and foremost, it is, let me get my mouse out of the way, it's a note card accessory, right? That means it must be used alongside a cellular or Wi-Fi note card. It doesn't yet run on its own. And that's because it's designed as a fallback or a failover communication device. So you start with cellular, for instance, and you fall back on satellite if you lose connectivity. Now, it's also important to know that you don't program StarNote directly. Since it works with a paired note card, you actually program the note card, and the note card then decides when and how to use satellite connectivity based on those requirements that you've specified. Now, thanks to our partner Skylo, StarNote actually accesses geostationary satellites. The cool thing about this is you're not waiting for a satellite to move into view to get connectivity. You also use the same or very similar cellular LTE antennas that you've been using. And it does ship prepaid with 18 kilobytes of data. Now, does this seem like that much data? Probably not, but it is actually enough to send one 50-byte payload per day for about a year. And you can pay as you go beyond those 18 kilobytes at a rate of about 75 cents per kilobyte. Now, to put some of that pricing of Starnote into some perspective, satellite is quite insane in terms of pricing. Today, with satellite, you kind of either get nicked on monthly minimums or high rates per kilobyte. But an important feature of Starnote, and really Blues in particular, is that we're not here to enforce monthly minimums, right? We bundle in that 18 kilobytes of data along with having no monthly minimums to kind of get you started with satellite. And there are two Starnote for Skylo variants. They only differ in their antennas and the size of the physical boards themselves. So the one on the left uses onboard antennas provided and designed by Ignion. We also have one with UFL antenna connectors that uses a provided flexible antenna. And lastly, at a very high level, I like to show this off because satellite connectivity is really complicated, and I think we do a pretty good job of simplifying it. And this kind of lays out that outboard and inbound path of data from Notecard to StarNote to the satellites via the Skylo network to Notehub and then onto your cloud, right? And as complicated as this might even look, truth be told, you only need to care about what I'm highlighting here that says you, right? So that's really StarNote for Skylo in a nutshell. Super exciting product for us this year. Next up is our wireless for PLC, which we launched a little earlier this year. Now, this is not our product. This is the Arduino Opta PLC. And if you're not familiar with them, PLCs are used in industries like automotive, energy, packaging, really anywhere you need to control machinery by receiving inputs and processing those inputs and then controlling some device like a motor or valve or whatever it may be. Now, if you attended our webinar with Edge Impulse and Arduino earlier this year, you may have seen what I'm about to present. I spent a long time working on this series of slides, which is why I wanted to reuse them here. But really, since the Opta provides plenty of I/O and access to relays, most people are using it to connect to and control something, right? So take an industrial motor in this example. Now, using the Opta, we can start measuring temperature, sound, vibration patterns, whatever may provide us information about the state of this or really any connected machine. And during the webinar, we showed off building a machine learning model with Edge Impulse, right? We showed off generating live inferences that can tell us maybe the motor needs to be shut down, maybe it's going to fail soon, or it's just generally operating out of spec. And these are all very great and very important insights, but we then need to communicate those insights, right? And that's where Blues and our wireless for PLC product comes into play. So this literally snaps onto the Opta and provides turnkey cellular data syncing with any cloud. So you can use this to build out like SMS alerting, live dashboards, and you can also take advantage of bidirectional communication capabilities from your cloud back to the Opta as well. Now, the one new thing I can tell you about this is that starting in 2025, Arduino is going to be distributing the wireless for PLC from their sales outlets directly, making it much more accessible for some of our larger scaling customers. All right, number 3 on our list is the newly updated series of cellular-only note cards. What's new here? Well, the obvious switch from green to black PCB, but we've also dramatically improved the design to make these less expensive for you. Now, specifically, we've been able to trim dollars off your BOM cost for these new cellular-only boards. We will continue selling what we're calling our legacy cellular note cards, the green ones. But for new designs, we're generally recommending building around these less expensive models. They use the same cellular radios as their legacy counterparts, so they are quite literally just as good, but cheaper. Next up for us, a big release we had at the beginning of the year was Note Card for LoRa. So this is a $10 LoRa device that fits, I like to think it just fits like a perfect puzzle piece into the Blues ecosystem of wireless connectivity, right? It is available in US and EU versions based on the appropriate LoRa frequencies in use. And at the same time, we also released the Blues starter kit for LoRaWAN, which includes a pre-provisioned gateway that runs on the Things stack, and you can connect it via Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and includes 3 note cards, 3 note carrier Bs, and 3 LiPos to provide power. And like with StarNote, I wanted to briefly describe the data flow for LoRa with Blues. So when you choose Blues and you choose our LoRaWAN gateway, for instance, you're managing your end devices, right? But Blues is managing the network and app servers on the Thing stack. We're also managing Notehub, of course, which provides this real seamless connectivity to your cloud application, whatever it may be. But if you're not using a Blues gateway, but if you're using another LoRaWAN gateway that's already on the Thing's network, what are you doing? Well, you're managing your own network server. You have to enable Packet Broker to exchange traffic with other LoRaWAN networks, but Blues is still here to manage the app server and, of course, Notehub. So it's still quite a simple process. All right, marching right along. So many products this year. But next is the new line of note carriers, the X series, starting with the Note Carrier XS. Now, the XS is used for integrating StarNote with your cellular or Wi-Fi note card. This comes in our StarNote starter kit as well. The X is a new iteration of our Note Carrier B. So it is a small form factor note carrier, but it has both QUIC and eSLAV ports and also switches over to USB-C, which is very popular. And finally, there's the Note Carrier XM, which is, you can think of it as like a reference design for building an absolute minimal note carrier. It does contain those essential circuitry you need for the note card. It has USB-C again for serial access. But unlike other note carriers, the XM does not include an external SIM slot, nor does it include QUIC or eSLAV ports. And if you didn't already know, we actually open source all of our note carrier designs here on GitHub, primarily because we want to provide a series of best practices and recommendations for when you are designing a note card into your product, right? So you'll feel free to look through these and provide us feedback or use them in any way, shape, or form. All right, last but not least, the long desired $19 cellular note card launched this year, that being the Note Card XP. So Note Card XP is our new customizable cellular product. It lets you take advantage of the Note Card at scale while optimizing your BOM costs, of course, starting at $19. Now, all Note Card XPs include the same MCU, same cellular radio, GPS module, accelerometer, secure element, certifications, and of course the same sunset resilient design of all of our note cards. So none of that is changing. But then we have the optional add-ons. So by default, we strip the Note Card XP down to its core, but you can choose to add on the capabilities you need, like SIM switching, flash storage, the embedded SIM and data plan as well. What's the catch? Well, you do have to provide your own power supply for the Note Card XP, and there is a minimum order quantity for us to be able to offer this at scale. But if you want to learn more about Note Card XP, I highly recommend reaching out to our sales team at this URL. It's a short form. I promise they won't bite. They're good people. And I think that's it for me. That's my Blues hardware wrapped for 2024 at least. So TJ, now it's up to you to continue the party, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll bring up my screen. It's cool seeing all of that at once. It's like a lot of different
Yeah,
stuff.
we did a lot more than I thought we did this year.
And I'm going to try to keep that sort of momentum going by talking about cloud and everything we've done there. 2024 was a big year for Notehub as well. There's a lot of different things that we shipped that we offered this year. And what I did is I tried to pick out just some of the more interesting features to talk about here, or more unique ones that if you're not already aware of, maybe you can pick up some tips and tricks for what you can use in your projects. And then we'll also take a peek at what's coming in 2025 as well. So we'll start with some DFU improvements that we've made in Notehub. And for this one, I'm going to switch over to my browser and show off these in action. So I've got a really simple project with just a single device, a weather app, and I've got a little note card here running on my desk that is running this. And for DFU, you probably know if you've used Notehub before that through Notehub, you can manage both note card firmware on your devices. So if you wanted to upgrade the actual note cards firmware running, you can do that through Notehub, as well as host firmware. If you're using certain hosts and you have everything wired up for note card outboard firmware update, you can also use Notehub to manage host firmware as well. So what is new? Well, there are two things that are new, and both are kind of important. The first is that everything you see here is now behind an API, or that there are now APIs available through the Notehub API to manage all of this. So for example, you could get lists of available firmware. You can update your firmware through the API, and you can also get status of those updates as they are in progress. So, for example, for my one device, I might want to see what versions of either no card, I'm filtering here by host firmware, what versions of host firmware are available. So I can see that I have two firmware binaries that I've uploaded to Notehub. I could go over to the update endpoint to actually update this device. The cool thing about this endpoint is there are a ton of different filters you can use. So before, if you wanted to schedule a firmware update, you were kind of limited by the Notehub UI because you had to go into click certain checkboxes, whatever. But through the API, you can arbitrarily specify different devices. You can filter by tags. You can filter by location. You could say only update my devices in this place. There's a lot of different configurability you have for these. And then basically you just tell it which, in this case, which host firmware I want. So I could say I want to update my device to this version 1.0.2. And then the last endpoint will just let you get status on your firmware as it is going. So for example, I could run this and it could say that I have 1.0 running and I just requested 1.0.2 to run on the device as well. And all of this is giving you the ability to build this into your own solution. Maybe you want to build a dashboard or some scripts behind this to help people manage your devices, especially as you start to scale up your fleets and your deployments. And then one last thing, the Notehub UI also has and I think if I refresh, I should see, yeah. So I just scheduled 1.0.2, I feel like, and you'll see that it was marked ready. The download started. It's pending a sync, and now it's actually initiating the DFU. Basically, this visualization for seeing progress on your DFU is new. It just makes it a little bit easy to interpret DFU information, slightly easier to use Notehub to manage firmware on your devices. All right, so that is DFU improvements. Next on the list, there are two new routes that we added in 2024, Arduino Cloud and Blink. So Arduino Cloud is Arduino's platform for managing devices, controlling IoT devices. And really, this pairs really well with our Opta expansion, our wireless for PLC hardware release that Rob mentioned earlier. And I actually have one of those. If I bring back up Zoom, 1 second, I'll do this. We'll do it this way. We'll figure it out. So I have my Opta and my wireless for PLC running on my desk. And what I'm going to do is bring back up my screen. We can manage to do enough windows here because I have my device connected to an Opta dashboard in Arduino Cloud. And this dashboard is really quite simple. I can use this to turn the LED on my device, turn it off. I've had it on so you can see the temperature of my office over the last day or so. And really, the point of this is not this dashboard. I'm not winning any amazing design awards for creating this, but more the ease of the connectivity that we provide. So these PLC controllers are often quite difficult to get on the internet. You have to deal with weird corporate systems and Wi-Fi systems. And the Opta expansion makes it easy to just bolt on a wireless for PLC, bolt on a no card essentially, and start getting data to cellular and fully integrating that within Arduino's ecosystem. We make the firmware and such really easy to work with as well. So if you're interested in the PLC world or getting your data into Arduino's ecosystem, check out our Arduino route. We make it really, really simple to do that. All right, next is, and I could bring, can you switch your camera without the screen share? I don't want to give people like, I feel like I'm jumping around too much, but I don't know if Zoom makes it easier to do that. But next is Blink. So Blink is a low-code IoT platform. They really specialize in building dashboards, both web and mobile dashboards. And I don't have a demo of that one working, but I'll just note that we just did a webinar with the team from Blink a few weeks ago. And if you are interested in checking this out, actually, if Rob, you want to drop a link to this in the chat for people so they don't have to screenshot this. But they do a pretty good job of showing it off in this webinar. And I was most impressed with their mobile app builder. So they have a native iOS and Android app that lets you do a whole lot in terms of native app dev around your devices. And it works really well with the two-way data sync between NoCard and Notehub. So you can build some really cool things. And if you want to check it out, I'd recommend watching through that webinar to get up to speed on what Blink can do. All right, so those are new routes. The next one is S3 archiving and Snowpipe. So this one, the archiving solution, it's available in the archive tab of your Notehub project. And what it does is basically just gives you a seamless way to drop your data into an S3 compatible bucket, S3 compatible storage solution. And you configure a few fields. So in this case, I'm saying I want Notehub to create a monthly folder and to archive daily into that folder. And then once you have that set up, you have your credentials. What Notehub is going to do, so I've got an AWS instance of S3 over here, is monthly it'll create a folder that looks like this. So year, month. And then within it, it's just going to do JSON dumps of your data. I just have some test data since I recently set this up, but it'll set up these dumps where it'll just have the timestamps of the data in here, and it'll just drop all of your events. You can also filter based off this. So if you wanted only certain types of data applied into that archive, you can do that. And so this is another just quick little easy thing that if you need an archive of your data, you can use. And actually one kind of exciting thing is that as of January 1st and the pricing changes that we're making on January 1st, this is a feature that will be free for everybody to use. So you might not have seen this tab before in your Notehub projects, but this will be really available to everyone as of January 1st. All right, the next one on the list was Snowpipe. Snowpipe is, if you haven't heard of it before, it is Snowflake's way of to basically give you they call it like a continuous ingestion feed, basically a way of taking data that's from Notehub and piping it directly into your Snowflake databases. We also offered an integration. We rolled this out this year for Snowpipe users. So if you are into Snowpipe, you can check that out as well. All right, alerts. So this year we added a full alerting and monitoring system into Notehub. And this is on the alerts tab. And what you can do is create all sorts of different monitors to look for different situations in your data. So for instance, suppose that you were using my temperature monitor PLC over there, and you wanted to know when the temperature got above like 40 degrees, because that might be bad. You might need somebody to look at that. You could set up a monitor that looks for that condition and then notify somebody through email, through Slack, or through Twilio. This is something that you've previously been able to do in Notehub through routes. So you could route your data to some service that does this, but we're providing it natively in Notehub and quite a bit of configurability for the types of alerts that you want to look for and the types of patterns in your data you want to see. The other types of alerts, and you might have noticed from these templates here, these are the most common alerts that people use. One is for heartbeat. So if you just want to know if my device hasn't sent data in the last X period of time, let me know about it. This could be a sign that it ran out of battery or it hit some firmware issue or something went wrong. You can get notified in that condition. Or the opposite, spam detection. If your device suddenly starts spamming data, you might want to look into that so that you're worried about data usage or that something's just wrong with the device and you want to check that out. As of the pricing updates, we are allowing basically everybody is going to get the ability to create one heartbeat alert on their project for free. So I'm going to show that one off real quick because this is something you'll be able to use. I will use the template for creating a heartbeat monitor. It's going to default to letting me know if a device hasn't done anything in 24 hours, but we don't have 24 hours to do this. So we're going to wait 5 seconds before we send an email, and I will just email myself if the device hasn't done anything for 5 seconds. And this will still take like 30 seconds or a minute to kick off because Notehub will take some time to wait this period and then to queue up an email and then to send it out. And then when it does send out the email, I'll let you know. It should send it out pretty quickly though, because I'm getting readings every minute. And there it is, pretty much right on cue. So this is what an alert looks like. This is a heartbeat alert. The descriptions in here tell me if the device hasn't sent data in the last 24 hours. It has linked to the project. It has a link to the alert, which is going to show some kind of metadata about what happened, why this alert was triggered, and then a link to the device. So some handy little links you can use to kind of start your debugging session or try to figure out what happened and what is up. All right, alerts. Data exporting is next. I checked that off too soon. Data exporting. This is actually a button that you might have noticed in your Notehub projects up here in the top corner. It's just a really simple way that you can export data out of your Notehub projects. It'll accept filters. So let's say I got a request from Rob. He wanted to know from my device what was all the data from yesterday, and he wants it in an Excel spreadsheet. So what I can do is I can say, all right, let me filter my data yesterday. I want only data in my sensors note file, and then I'm going to export. I want to export all the fields in there. So I could limit this by only certain fields. Maybe I only wanted temperature and that's all I cared about. I could filter that. I'm just going to take everything and I can export in either JSON or CSV format. And I will pick CSV. This will take a second because I've had this device being kind of spammy, so that it made for a good demo. So I'll push that out and I will update, look at my CSV. And I just have a really quick way to generate an Excel spreadsheet. And there's my temperature and my office and humidity. And like I said, I spammed the crap out of this. So there is a lot of data in here. But this is just a quick way that you can build these sorts of spreadsheets from your data that is in your Notehub projects. And all of this is also available through the Notehub API. So if you look at any of the Notehub API events API, there's a new format argument that you can send, and you can send a format of CSV and generate spreadsheets through that way as well. All right, exporting. The next two things are small little things, but I just think are nice and pretty cool features. Maps. So fairly straightforward. If you go to your device, there is a map thing. And this is something that as of January 1st will be available for all users as well. So if you haven't seen this feature yet, you will be seeing it soon. It's just a simple way that you can see your devices on a map. You can get a link to the device. There was also some other metadata you could hover over there in terms of whether the device is online, how good the connection is. There's some other stuff in there as well. This is a feature that's way cooler once you start to have fleets of devices. So if I switch over to our AirNote project that we run here at Blues, this is air quality monitors that we help run and maintain and that are deployed literally worldwide. You can see how cool this looks with the Maps tab. So same thing, I'm just on the Map tab of a Notehub project. And from here, I can zoom in to where these devices are. So we can check in on Rob real quick in Wisconsin and check out his device and go in. And it's just a nice way to browse around. I find that when I do have multiple devices, sometimes this is the most elegant way. Instead of seeing devices in a table, sometimes it's just nice to see them on a map as a way of navigating around to your devices. All right, that is maps. Next is usage charts. So this is another small but nice one. If you go to the usage tab on your device, and this is for any device in Notehub, you have this new graph. And this graph looks, if you're a GitHub user, you might notice that this looks a whole lot like the GitHub contributor graph. It's definitely inspired by that. And what this is showing is a month's worth of data, and each box represents a day in the month. And so it's showing how many events happened each day in the last month, how many sessions occurred, and how often a device was online. And the intention here, I'll zoom in just a little bit, is to help you spot outliers. So one piece of feedback we've gotten from a lot of customers and users is that the main thing they want to know is when something is not normal. If a device is suddenly not sending any data or is suddenly sending a ton of data. And this can help you notice those outliers at a glance. Now, in Rob's project has actually been running really, really well. This is pretty darn consistent. It's pretty much the same number of events, sessions, and online time. I did notice the one outlier in here is that he has one day where this device was very online. So I don't know if he was charging it that day or whatever the case may be. But that's the only one outlier. This is mostly a device that's running kind of as you would expect and as normal. And this new chart just gives you a quick way to quickly look at devices and try to help determine that. It can be really handy for debugging. And then last on the list is _Wi-Fi. This is a feature that's probably more accurately described as a note card firmware feature because this is something we added in the most recent 7.5.2 release of the note card firmware. But you can set this environment variable in Notehub, and I just wanted an excuse to talk about it because I think it is a really cool feature. This is a new environment variable that you can set to a series of SSID and password combinations. The idea here is that if you have a no card Wi-Fi or a no card cell plus Wi-Fi, you can use this environment variable to remotely configure which Wi-Fi networks your note card could use. So this is something you couldn't previously do unless you kind of develop your own environment variables and some host firmware that used it. This is now a feature that is built in. So if you need to be able to remotely change or give your users or customers the ability to remotely change Wi-Fi networks, this is a feature you can now use. And you can also now provide multiple networks to a no card for the first time also. So if you have a device that moves between buildings or between facilities, you can provide both here. And the no card has a built-in way to kind of intelligently manage which network it should use. And then it'll also report which which network it's using through the session metadata that it publishes up to Notehub. And I think that is it for 2024. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I didn't cover. I tried to just hit the high notes so that I didn't take up the entire hour here. I'll just end by saying that we love to hear feedback from all of you all. So if you have features that you want to see us work on in 2025 or things that you want us to do, please let us know. You can either tell us in the chat or the Q&A here, or you can go to our community forum and reach out there and tell us problems you're hitting or things that you wish the platform could do, because we'd love to help make that possible in the next year. And I think that's it for my section. Rob, I think we are tossing it over to Alex next, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. Thanks for that, TJ. So I have the honor of being able to introduce some upcoming features and tease a little bit about what's coming in 2025. And let me share my slides. Okay. So I'm going to jump straight into it and talk about the thing that is most exciting to me on my desk at the moment. And that is a new product that we are announcing today called the Mojo. So I didn't leave anything to tease there, I went straight into it. The Mojo is super exciting. So the Mojo, which stands for more joules, is a Coulomb counter that we are tightly integrating with the note card. What this means is that you got one there, have you, TJ? Yeah, I've got mine on my desk as well. This little quick connected board here. And what it does is it sits between your note card or your note carrier, your application, and your battery or your power supply. And the idea is that as you are drawing power, as you're drawing energy and your system is running, the Coulomb counter is counting the energy that's passed through it. So you can through note card programmatically ask how much power am I using? And over a period of time, you can log this, you can store this, you can use this intelligently to scale up, scale down your communications. It's a really great way of being able to measure power consumption in the field. And what I'll say is that this is not a benchtop tool. This is something that should be deployed with a note card into the field. So you might take this and integrate it into your own product. You could take Mojo directly, or you could be inspired by it. We're going to release the designs for these onto to Note hardware as open source designs, and it's supposed to be a reference for you to go and understand how to do power management and power observation in the field. So in Note card firmware from version 7.4.2 onwards, the Note card will automatically be able to detect the Mojo. I'll do a quick demo of how to see that from the Note card API. And what it will give you back will be the temperature, voltage, and milliamp hours that have been observed on the Mojo. Specifically the milliamp hours since the last time you requested that information. So let me jump over to my demo. Okay. Let me quickly hide this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is show you the API real quick. Let me plug in my note carrier. So I have, at the moment, I've got a note carrier X with a LiPo going through my Mojo. And that is allowing me to see the milliamp hours that are passing through the Mojo. So let's have a look at that quickly. Right, so this is directly running on my note card. I'm in the Blues Dev terminal, and we can run a simple command, which is request card.power. And instantaneously, we get back the temperature in Celsius, voltage in volts, and the milliamp hours that are being seen on the device. So right now, it's a negative value because that device has been charging. The LiPo has been on charge over USB. If we unplug this, and we can look at that in a second in my spreadsheet, you'll see that it runs the other way. And as the coulombs are draining out of the LiPo, you'll see that counter increasing. We can set this to a specific increment to log at. So, for example, if um, we wanted to see what Mojo see in the last 10 minutes, we can run this command card.power with the argument minutes. And what this will then do is generate a system note file underscore log.qo, which will get sent up to Notehub every time you do a sync, and it will log to this Notehub note file every 10 minutes. So what I've been doing with this Mojo is running it on my desk for the last day, and I've been using a route to put this into a Google Sheet, which is really cool because it's a super easy way to be able to very quickly see how much power your application is using. Okay, let's have a look at a graph. So I've got two samples that I took, one over the last week and then one over just today. So we'll look at the last week, and you can see the values here. So this is a increasing coulomb count. So at this point, as indicated in red, this is power draw. So this is the LiPo draining. As we plugged it in, you can see that it started to flip the other direction, and we're actually now seeing a positive charge go into the cell. And you can map this into a battery if you specify like your total milliamp hour capacity of the battery, and get a really nice, really simple overview of how much power you're drawing over a period of time. What's nice about this is you can set an increment, plug it in, write really quickly to a spreadsheet, test your demo or test your application, and see it live on screen. There's a couple of cool things that I saw when I was doing this. One of them is if you observe voltage. So this was a day where I actually took out my note carrier, and this morning period was some charging increments. You can see as the voltage spikes up, going up towards 4.2, which is the nominal charge voltage of a lithium-ion battery, and then steadily decreasing through the day as I unplugged it and walked around with it. What's really interesting is this like noisy area here, which is from when the note card swapped over from being on a Wi-Fi connection over to cellular. So you can see the cellular is a little bit noisier on the voltage because the power draw of the cellular modem is has a wider voltage draw than what you see on over Wi-Fi. So it's really interesting that we can categorize that period of time as on cellular versus on Wi-Fi. And I can't get to my other tabs because I've got the Zoom bar in the way. But what I wanted to quickly show as well was just what these events look like. Not that one, that one. So if we go into one of these events, you can see what this looks like. So what you get when you sync a log.qo note file is you get this body, and that is written to every increment that you specify. So in my Google Sheet, this is being routed over to the Google Sheet and logged out into the various columns of the spreadsheet. But it's super helpful because you get to see both the current milliamp hours observed and then also the delta from the last time that you logged the file. So 600 seconds ago, we saw 7.5 milliamp hours of energy consumed in the specific event and the voltage logged at that point. So I'm really excited about this. I think this has a lot of potential for field deployments and getting more information out of your note card while it's doing its thing. And I hope that we see more of these hit the field and doing more cool things in the future. Right, I will jump back into my into my presentation. Wherever that has
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, I'm super excited for Mojo. I run into these problems all the time because I'll ask somebody because I am not the power expert at Blues, so I'll complain about something losing too much power, and then it's like the worst thing to debug. There's so many potential variables, and this can help a
Yeah.
lot.
And there's one thing to be able to do it when it's on your desk and in front of you, but what you really want to know is like what is it doing in the real world? And you
Yeah.
could, hook up your really expensive scope to it and leave it in the field, but that's only scalable for the one or two devices you have scopes for.
I just had this morning had one die outside, and I'm wondering like what's the weather's effect on it because it's freezing cold out there. And hey, this would help.
Yeah. And the
And
nice thing about this as well, oh, go on, Rob.
nope, I'm gonna let you finish.
I was gonna say the cool thing about this is you'll be able to see things like solar charging occurring as well. It'll be a observable event through Mojo.
That's awesome.
I was just gonna say we have a tentative release date of early February, I believe, for Mojo. So not available today, but coming soon.
Yep. And I'll do a write up for this Google Sheet so you can quickly throw a demo together if you'd like to see it in action. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about following my demo was sort of a revisit of the mid-band note cards. So earlier this year, we teased the mid-band note cards. These are a LTE Cat 1 Biz variant of our Cat 1 LTE Cat 1 wideband note cards. The real benefit with these is that Cat 1 Biz is a single antenna variant. So as opposed to the older brother, the original Cat 1, where you need to have two antennas to be able to effectively utilize the antenna tracks of the note card, you can reduce the form factor down, and actually we've been able to reduce the cost as well of these Cat 1 Biz note cards. So what the product team has told me is that if you are a Cat 1 or NB-IoT customer at the moment and you'd like to test one of these, please get in touch. We are looking at getting these out into the field and verifying that they're performing correctly and behaving correctly. So please reach out to us. I think Rob threw in the contact sales team. You can use that link or reach out to us directly, and we'll get hooked up. We'll get prospective customers hooked up with these note cards so they can test them too. And last but not least, we have the Signet, which you may have seen us announce yesterday. I think an email went out and we put a blog post out. But Signet is also something I'm super excited about. Signet is our next flavor of the Feather MCU. So we have historically had the Swan, which is an STM32L4 as well, but that was a bigger brother compared to the Signet. It was sort of a more fully fledged, quite powerful. It was a castellated edge board with tons of I/O that you could use if you wanted to solder it down into your application or use it entirely on its own. This is sort of the lightweight, cost-effective alternative to that. So this is a still an STM32L4, similar levels of power, slightly less RAM, slightly less flash. If you head over to our blog post, you can read all about the comparison between Signet and Swan. But the real advantages are it's lower cost than the Swan, so $15 compared to 25. It uses 4 microamps of current in its low power stop 2 mode, which means that you can get even more power savings out of it compared to it as a Swan. And our getting started guides and data sheets should be available now. You can order it today, and if you want to start building things with it, it's ready to go. And we look forward to seeing what you build with it. So yeah, excited. I have one other message that I've been told that I'm allowed to tell you, which is our top secret releases for next year. I can't share any more than this, but all I can say is that we will be expanding our satellite capabilities in 2025, which we were desperately keen to share, but we've been told that's all that we can tell you. So you'll have to hang tight for those announcements. And that's it. So it's been a great recap of last year and what we've got upcoming this year. And I'll open it to Q&A if we have some questions in the chat.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great job, guys. Yeah, looking back, it's really impressive to see what we collectively did as a company this year. Lots of new products. I felt like in 2023, looking to this year, we're like, oh, we're going to slow down on our product releases, but then all of a sudden it just kind of spun out of control in a good way. So we'll see. 2025 feels like we're going to do a little more consolidation, but famous last words and all that.
I've got the
Um,
Signet and Swan here side by side. If people are curious, they look very similar. I mean, it's both feather, it's both the same form factor. Really, all you can notice is the USB-C versus micro USB. Other than that, the visually they're basically identical. They're easy to mix up if you're going to do a demo. Like in my situation, you have to look for a second. Like, wait, which one am I using again?
I'll also preface that with you can use them both exactly the same way. So we have support for Arduino IDE. Um, CircuitPython will be coming to the Signet. It's not there just yet, but you'll be able to program it and use it exactly how you have with the Swan. So all the same mechanisms and tools you've used before, you'll be able to do the same thing with the Signet.
Great. So we did get a bunch of questions that came through. I did want to highlight a few of them as I think they pretty much are universally applicable. And the first, I did want to address the pricing updates that we recently announced on Notehub. And if I can distill them down into a nutshell, and please correct me if and when I'm wrong here, we are fundamentally switching from an egress model to an ingress model, meaning we used to only bill Notehub events when they were routed out to your cloud endpoint. That became very complicated for us and for our customers as well. So we kind of flipped that on its head and we're now charging based on events that are sent to Notehub. So you can send as many events out of Notehub as you want, but we're changing the billing model to gate on in inbound data to Notehub, with the notes that 5,000 events per month are always going to be free and you're topped up at the beginning of your billing cycle every month. And you can still, beyond those 5,000, you can still purchase additional what we call consumption credits to go above and beyond that. Um, we did make some changes to our billing policies after we announced them based on feedback, which I love seeing from this company. So now that the what we're calling platform events, meaning those automatically created events like underscore session.qo or health.qo, those are no longer charged. So those are not included in those 5,000 free events, nor are they included in any overages beyond those 5,000. And our Notehub API access, those are, I just saw the note come through today. Those are limited to 10,000 free per, no, TJ, I'm going to get it wrong. What is it?
Per day.
Per
Per
day?
day.
10,000 per day. Okay, I didn't want to misspeak.
I mean, the big beneficial thing for this change is that previously with Notehub, because we were charging based off egress, it made some of our customers and users hesitant to egress their data because you would be charged if you did large queries with Notehub API or the export functionality that I showed off. And now you have a lot more flexibility to get your data, export it, archive it with S3, get it from the Notehub API. So that part has opened up considerably, which hopefully can um, just let you all do some cooler stuff with your data, not having to worry about charges when you're starting to push your data out to places.
Yeah. Yeah, much simpler model for everybody. Um, a question came in through Q&A about it's an interesting one because somebody's asking about whether our no card includes components made in the US. And this has come up more frequently lately, especially, related to possible tariffs and everything. We do, just so everyone knows, we've traditionally worked on our cellular radios, used modems from Quectel, which is based in China. Very popular, probably the most popular, I would argue, uh, provider of cellular radios. We are also working with Telit, who's based in the US. Wait, are they based in the US? They're not based in China. They're based in the US. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, they
uh,
they manufacture all over the place.
yeah,
They're
right,
based
right.
in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do have a no card model that uses a telet modem as well. So if that is a consideration for you, just know that we are very much aware of this and are planning accordingly and have that one model available for sale today.
We got
Um,
a cool suggestion in the chat from somebody that reached out and say it would be cool if the heartbeat alerts could also trigger other things like routes, which I think is a really cool suggestion. And I took a note of that because I could totally see that if my device hasn't done anything in a while, maybe I don't want to be emailed, maybe I want to trigger something or do something. And I think that's a super interesting idea that we'll pass along.
and we've had a couple questions about no card XP because I know that low price is very intriguing for a lot of people. I would just generally recommend if you go to blues.com/nocard-XP, you'll get a fair amount of information there. But really the value will come when you have a conversation with our team to dive into the details and see what the pros and cons of it and see if it is a good fit for you. So I'd recommend reaching out via the form we provide. And see if there's anything else that stood out here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last call on questions or chat if you have anything. And if you think of anything after this or you're watching the recording, our community forum, discuss.blues.com, is also a good place. Questions, the three of us hang out there, so we'll see it. And yeah,
Just post.
probably up on Christmas to answer your questions.
That's right. Yep. Feel free to tag me in those. But otherwise, yeah, if there's no last minute questions, thanks everyone for attending. Thanks, TJ and Alex. This is a really nice, casual end of year celebration of everything blues. So appreciate y'all and yeah, we'll see you all next year.
Yeah, appreciate everybody coming out. This is a lot of fun. Here's to another year.